All right, welcome back to the Grow Like a Mother podcast. Today I have Jamie. She is a licensed mental health therapist, a certified hypnotherapist, and the owner of Enlightened Counseling and Healing in Omaha, Nebraska. Jamie utilizes mind-body healing modalities like eye movement desensitization and reprocessing, which is EMDR for short, brain spotting, and hypnosis, along with a variety of other alternative practices that she incorporates, like past life regression and dream interpretation. And today we get to dive into some past life regression hypnosis, what it is, how it can help us as moms, all the things. So, Jamie, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Joe.
I'm so curious to know how this came to be, how you got into this sort of like maybe we can call them alternate modalities, right? You're a therapist, but
Mhm.
we're moving into a little bit more of the unknown or maybe not culturally popular techniques. And
Right.
I personally find those so helpful. And obviously you do too. Can you tell us how you got into it?
Yeah, absolutely. So I had been in the mental health field for 10 years already, and I had been trained in EMDR. I'd been trained in brain spotting, which, even when those two first came out, those were kind of,
Yeah.
hokey at first as well. And and so until more research came about to kind of show and prove their worth and worthiness, but I personally always liked more like spiritual and holistic healing for myself. And so my husband encouraged me actually on like an impulse to try out hypnosis training. He's like, you should do it. You should throw it into your, repertoire of, of how to heal and help others. And so it started with just plain hypnosis training. And then I met strangely enough, a large population, at least in my community, of therapists who use hypnosis. And so I was like, do you do past life regression? Like, what what is the value or worth in that in using this modality? Because I mean, I had done it just like for fun and for my own plain curiosity, but I didn't quite realize how it could be helpful for clients and just really learning more about themselves or learning more about who they are in this lifetime.
I think that's so poignant because I mean, whether or not, I guess we first need to establish whether or not we believe in past lives. I personally do, right? Not everyone listening is going to, but if you stick with us and imagine for the purpose of the conversation that we have all had past lives, we can learn so much about our current life and understand the challenges we have, some places we get stuck, some physical pains, like some traumas or fears, and we can do that by diving into what's still in our subconscious and still sort of like in the, I don't know, would we consider it like in the DNA that we bring with us? Like how do we bridge the what happened before with the where we are now? How do you explain that piece of it?
Yeah. The way I explain it is, and you're right, if you kind of have to loosely believe in past lives. And so I use the term your soul's memory. You could say your spirits, your energy, whatever correct term feels right for you, because it's so subjective. But the way I see it is we're just talking to your soul's memory and we're accessing the memories that are already within you, that you on a subconscious level are always holding on to. But we also know, and the therapist in me knows, our brain is only going to remember, quote unquote, memories that are not going to be too overwhelming for us because it ultimately wants you to function. It wants you to stay alive and it wants you to survive, right? So the idea of remembering absolutely every lifetime would be just so overwhelming and too intense. And so that to me makes sense when I kind of bridge the gap of all of my trauma training with the spiritual world training. So I really see it as if you ever have like a like a reaction to somebody saying or doing something, or if you have like a response, like a fear. The easy ones are like phobias or fears that kind of come out of nowhere. I've shared with clients, sometimes I had someone I worked with. We live in the Midwest. There's no ocean near us, but they had a very strong fear of alligators and crocodiles, like just the idea of that coming towards them. No bodies of water in Nebraska really are going to have that. And so it doesn't make sense where this fear came from for this particular person because they'd only lived in Nebraska. And we did a past life regression and dissected, they had died by an alligator attack in a past life. And so it helped them make sense of this fear that didn't make sense in this lifetime. So little examples like that.
Yeah, I have one like that. I'm terrified of fish. And I've often wondered about doing a past life hypnosis or regression just to see like where is it coming from because there's no conscious memory. But it impedes my day. Like I can't walk through the grocery store with the frozen fish aisle. Like it's bad.
Yeah.
It's so weird. So things like this and also things like why as moms specifically certain things will trigger us, right? It could be
Mhm.
from childhood, but it might be deeper or older than that. And
Absolutely.
for those of us who are doing the work and trying to understand ourselves and still come up like a little short, like we don't quite feel like the loop is closed understanding something about what we're working on, this is a really good tool. Um, can you explain to us how a session works? Like what is a past life regression?
Yeah, absolutely. So, what I typically started off, just like any hypnosis session, I ask clients to get them just as physically and mentally relaxed as possible. I'll usually start with a level of a guided meditation. That's the easiest way that most people understand. And and then we do a series of like deeper relaxation exercises because ultimately when we're doing a past life regression, since we're really talking to that soul's memory, I need you to be in the deepest relaxed state possible. And with hypnosis, you're still awake, you're still conscious. So I'll still check in with you just to see where you're at, how you're feeling, right? And then it kind of varies. Some people come in with like a direct target, a direct, like, I want to know if I've known my mom in a past life. I want to know if I've married my partner in a past life. You know, having specific people or places that they're curious. And some people are like, let's just kind of explore and like see what my soul decides to show me today. And and our subconscious, it's still connected to our brain. It's always going to show us something helpful. It's going to show us something useful. It's never going to show you something that doesn't make any sense or that's too overwhelming that you can't handle. So once I get you into that relaxed state, I will simply just ask your soul to take you wherever you need to go. And that could be a singular lifetime, it could be many lifetimes. Kind of depends on the person. I trust that your soul or your spirit will take you where you need to go. So it's kind of like I and you are walking through your memories together, simply exploring. You know, we'll be able to look at like really look around and where are you? What is going on? What are your clothes that you're wearing? Who are other people that are around you, right? And then we'll kind of jump through whether it's that lifetime and like see the entire lifetime, whether it's multiple lifetimes. But especially for like your listeners, for moms, I think what's helpful is when people find those relationships that are mirroring the relationships in their present life. Because I've had some clients see, for instance, like their children, and they will see their child, but maybe it's not their child in a past life. But you know, they say eyes are the window to the soul. And so when you see their eyes in this past life, they're like, oh my gosh, that's my son or that's my daughter. And they get to quote unquote watch this lifetime, this past lifetime with that child and truly feel like the emotions of, wow, this is how we spoke to each other in this past life. This is how we interacted and talked with each other. And it gives them that kind of download of that lifetime experience. And for some people, it's a polar opposite relationship. So then they can take that and say, wow, am really fortunate that we have this type of a relationship. Or, I've had some people, they're like, wow, I'm doing a lot of the same behaviors and I'm noticing I was really sad at the end of that lifetime. Like I really regretted it. So I now have to consciously in this lifetime push myself to parent or interact with this person, maybe in a way that I am not instinctually wanting to do. It'll kind of push them to do the work that maybe they didn't realize was in there. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it totally does. And it sort of makes me think of karma and being able to heal the karma from previous lifetimes. Um, I know that for me, my son in this, like my son now, he's 6, he's autistic. And in a previous life, I had um I don't know exactly because I haven't done the regression, but from what guides say, he had helped me a lot in a past lifetime. And this is my opportunity to help him in this lifetime. So little things
Mhm.
like that and just understanding, especially if you've got like a special needs kid or somebody who in your life is challenging, or relationship or a job or a pattern that you're seeing, right? That you're like, why? Why do I have to keep coming up against this? It might be to heal something that's older, right? I wonder how long do the sessions take? Because when you reference like we go through the whole lifetime, but is it like a download like, oh, I got it? How long do these take?
So my sessions typically take about 2.5 hours, maybe three. And a good chunk of the beginning is obviously, like I said, getting you in that really deep, relaxed state. So, but once we're in there, it's great because clients just go. They're like, oh yeah, this is what's happening. This is what's going on. And so a good like probably hour and a half, 2 hours is just plain exploring, and diving around. And I also, because I want to bridge that gap from this past life to your present waking life, I'll always take some time in between that period of you obviously die in that past life. And so that period of death and then waking back up in this life, there's a period of reflection and, what do you need to release that was in that past life? Some people, especially with parenting, it'd be like, oh, there was a lot of guilt. So like I notice I'm repeating that same out of guilt. This is how I'm treating my partner or my children, or even like your parents, right? And so because all of this is just generational, I think, with parenting, how we interact with our parents, how we interact with our children, how we interact with the other adults that are in our children's lives. When we can kind of release these feelings of hurt or of regret or of sadness, or if we can be grateful because, oh, now I see, I had a past life regression where I didn't get to raise my son for very long. And in that lifetime, I thought, oh, this is okay. This is for, I was like, this is for the greater good. And I kind of sacrificed my child. I probably wasn't the best mom. And I was just like, this was in that lifetime, I thought this was a good choice, because I was living my life with different ideas of what was a good idea. And then in this lifetime, I had to really just let go of, I get to be grateful for the lifetime that I get to spend with him now, and grateful that he decided to come back into my life again. That trust was getting rebuilt and strengthened. And so it was just a way for me to figure out ways that in this lifetime I can maybe verbally reassure him or like emotionally reassure him that like I'm safe. I can be a consistent person in your life, how grateful I am to have this opportunity again, right? And so it's nice to have that reflection period before I bring people like fully awake and conscious and send them out my door to really dissect, okay, these are emotions we can let go of. These are the ties we need to cut, maybe. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes total sense. And that's really beautiful. Thank you for sharing that about your son. I think a question a lot of people are going to have is, will they remember a session?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Well, in all hypnosis, you're awake and conscious. So it's still like a dialogue, even though you're in such a deep, relaxed state. It almost feels like you're in a daydreaming state, or that period of right when you're not quite awake and you haven't yet opened your eyes, and you could easily drift back into that dream you just had, or you could just open your eyes and move on with your day. And so you will remember. And I personally audio record them just because I don't want people to stress out about remembering details of what they're sharing or saying. So I'll always audio record just for good measure. And if anything, it's just nice to kind of rehear it, replay it to get that
Yeah.
refresher. Yeah.
Yeah. And do you do these sessions always in person, or do you offer them remote as well?
I do both. Yep. COVID was great in the sense of it taught us how to do virtual meetings. So, yes, I do virtual, I do in person here in Nebraska. So, options.
Okay, cool. That's so interesting. And I love the idea that this is something that you can do just out of curiosity. And it's
Hmm.
something that you can do if you've got something specific that you want to know or to heal. Like there are so many different reasons people come to you, I imagine, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I had someone come in just for played curiosity, and they were like, let's just see. Like, I want to see if it works, quote unquote, or if I've had past lives, quote unquote. And so we went, and, they didn't have kids. They were a single person and a store owner, but they essentially had taken in like this homeless child under their wing as like as like their trainee. And then they kept, training and teaching this kid as they were growing. And they weren't familiar at first. And then as the session went on, they were like, oh my gosh, this is my son. And now I realize, and as soon as that recognition came in, this client, it's like they got this quick download of information of, oh, okay, it all made sense, like why I treat my son in this life this way, but in this lifetime I did all of these things. And so it's so almost just bizarre and amazing at the same time at how quickly your brain can piece together, oh, okay, I'm remembering simultaneously my lifetime and this past lifetime's information, and my brain can critically think enough to think, this is what I need to do with this information now. This is how I can change the way I'm treating my son.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can make real impact in this life. That's so
Yeah,
cool.
absolutely.
Okay, I've got some questions that are just top of mind, just
Yes.
out of your experience, because I know we don't actually really know, but I'm curious about your experience and what your thoughts are about how many past lives do you think people have had at this point?
I don't know. I think it's subjective. So maybe some people have fewer, some people have many, but I I don't know if I could give a number.
Yeah, kind of interesting to think about. But
I did have somebody, it didn't have to do with parenting necessarily, at least in this one, but we went back to the Big Bang,
wow.
and they were very upset about it.
Oh.
Like the Big Bang, they were upset about that. And so their spirit was like, wow, I've been holding on to this anger and this rage since that long, their soul. And so we had to release that, we had to let that go. Um, so in theory, maybe it goes back that far, right?
Yeah. Wow. And then the other question that pops into my mind is, have you ever experienced a situation where a past life is experienced or interpreted as um, an animal or something inanimate or like anything other than what we would know as humans? Or are we going to look back at our past lives in aggression like this and it's always going to be a human
Oh,
being?
yeah. Yeah, always on this earth. And yeah, I have had two people I've seen where we've gone to different planets.
Hmm.
I'm trying to make sure, three people. I've had at least three people. We've gone to different planets and we've been different beings. And so that they were all different types of species, if you will, the way they describe themselves. And like when they came out of hypnosis and we kind of chatted in the end, like, oh, okay, like what was that like? Da, 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 da. Let's like piece together what just happened. One of them, they were like, oh my gosh, I could literally feel like they were like under, essentially the world was all underwater, and they were like, I could feel it, like it was bizarre. And so their just body sensations felt exactly whatever they were seeing too. um so I suppose that's true if you have a lifetime that is on another planet or includes being an animal species of some sort that's not human.
So
Yeah,
interesting. So cool. I mean, I could just ask questions about this for hours and dig into your expertise. Is there anything that like feels important to share for someone who's interested in this, but doesn't really know where to begin?
sure. I think, especially for listeners, and I'm assuming most are moms or parents on some level, even if you're going to explore a past life, not necessarily out of, a direction or wanting to better understand your children, I think even the people who do a past life regression and learn more about themselves and learn more about who they are, you will end up doing so much self reflection and self growth that that will make it worthwhile. And I think as moms and as parents, not only do we always need to take more time for ourselves, but the more we know ourselves, I think we are better moms. We are better just adults living in this world that we live in. And so I wouldn't want to sway people away from, only wanting to see like who is my family, but maybe you just need to know more about yourself and why you are the person you are. And that self-reflection and that self-growth, that always makes it worth it in the end.
Yeah, well said. I totally agree. I think the work we do on ourselves is so important because not only does it impact us, but our kids, our community, our environments, everyone. It's a ripple
Everything.
effect. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my God. So cool, Jamie. Thank you for coming on the show. How can people work with you if they spoke to them or learn from you, follow along? Where do you like to hang out?
Yeah, absolutely. If anyone wants to reach out, I'm always happy to. I always tell people if I'm not the right fit, I will find you a good hypnotherapist that's in your area,
Cool.
especially if you like the in person. But if you're okay with virtual, if you happen to be in the Midwest and near Nebraska, that's cool too. I am on Instagram, Facebook. My at is at Enlightened Omaha. My website is enlightenedomaha.com. And I'm also a co host of a podcast with somebody who's also a clinical therapist at the Shrink Show podcast. So you can find us on all the socials there too.
So awesome. Thank you so much for your time. I really, really love talking to you.
It was a pleasure. Thank you for your time, Jill.